cried out, screamed at the sky in anger, in pain, you know? Like, if there's a God, I need you. If there's a God, I need a God. And how could you let this happen? If there's a loving God out there in the world, you know, somewhere up there, if there's a loving God, how could you let this happen? I hate you. You know, I was like, you don't love me. If you are there, if there is a God. So I was still open-minded, you know, to a God. But I was like, you don't love me and you don't care. I never grew up in a religious family or anything like that. I'm a street kid, you know what I mean? My parents were drug addicts, pill poppers, and alcoholics, you know what I'm saying? I grew up, my dad was a pen timer. He did 10 years in Collins Bay Penitentiary. He died when I was 18 years old, when I was in maximum security provincial jail in Hamilton. It's called Hamilton Barton Jail. You can Google it. It's a pretty savage place. And you know, God saw my brokenness, you know, and heard my cries, you know, and he came to my rescue. He did things that I can't prove to you. I'm just gonna I'm gonna share my story with you. So when I was 14 years old, okay, so all my life I grew up in a sick environment. Drunkards, you know, people that are drunk, you know, my mother, you know, and her boyfriend, you know, they punched each other out every single day. They were drunk every day, you know, abusive towards me, and, you know, played loud music all night until 5 in the morning, and then forced me to go to school. And then when I wouldn't succeed in school, they punished me when I came home. It was a complete nightmare for me as a child growing up, all the way up into 14. And during that time, my dad was doing that 10 years, you know. Just after I was born, he went in for 10 for an armed robbery. So I had a rough go as a kid, you know, a lot of trauma. But God saves the broken. You know, he comes to the rescue of the broken and the lost. He left the 99 sheep to go save the one. So in a sense, I'm blessed because of what I went through, you know. God rescues the lost, man. That's what he does. And he can do anything in your life, you know. I've overcome everything. Homelessness, addiction, alcoholism, jail, you know, so many different things. You know, weed, many different temptations that I grew up in that were normal, that were embedded into my life as a child and as a teenager. When I was 14 years old, I ran away from my mom's and her abusive boyfriend because they were drunk every single day and they wouldn't stop abusing me, and I had to escape. I grew up in a big city called Hamilton, Ontario. You know what I mean? It's a pretty big city. It's 30-40 minutes away from Toronto, GTA, you know, and you know, that's the largest and oldest city in Canada. And you know, so city life, there's a lot of sickness out there, you know, there's a lot of evil out there, you know what I mean? A lot of gangs, a lot of gun violence. So 14 years old, I ran away. My dad was out of jail at the time, and he was living with his wife. Now, he married somebody else. And there's a whole serious story attached to that I haven't came out about yet publicly. I might wait for that a little bit. Some pretty serious things going on with that. His wife. Anyway, so I ran away and I ran to him, and he was living with her, and they had a 2-bedroom apartment on 170 Sanford South Avenue in Hamilton, Ontario. And my dad has a history, obviously, of jail, addiction, alcoholism, violence, everything, right? But at that time, he was doing good, and he was married, and he was doing well with his wife. I wouldn't say well. I think they were both on disability. They were both on disability. My mother, grew up. I grew up. I was like a welfare baby. My mother was on welfare. My mother actually, no disrespect to my mother or dishonor to my mother, but at one point in time, my mother was a stripper. And that just goes to show you. I just want to let you understand how dark my past is and how I grew up and how God took me and did something completely different with me and broke the generational cycle that my bloodline and my last name was attached to, the darkness that I come from. People don't understand why I am the way I am and why I struggle with sin. But so anyways, so I moved in there. My dad was trying, he was trying. I started going to high school. Sir John A. Macdonald in Hamilton, Ontario was the high school I went to. I didn't really go, to be honest. I'll get there. I was pretty much across the street the whole time, smoking blunts and drinking 40s of Old English, skipping school and getting, stealing cars and driving them to school and picking people up. So, but anyways, that's the lifestyle I lived because I grew up like that, and I was broken and I was hurt, and it all started to come out. But anyway, so he's getting me to do my homework. He's trying to help me, you know what I mean? But he went back out in the streets. He started doing drugs again. He started drinking again. He came home drunk. He started being abusive to me and his wife, in a sense. Not as bad as, where I had it over there at my mom's with her boyfriend or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty bad. He would wake me up out of the middle of the night, and just lay into me for no reason, and say a bunch of really evil stuff to me for no reason. So anyways, bottom line is, when I was so anyways, so his wife left us with the apartment, and my dad started selling drugs, started selling drugs. He was doing drugs at the same time. There was a bunch of pen timers in there, a bunch of huge, big black guys. There was gang members in there. They were coming to buy product. A bunch of Crips from OC, Oreo Crescent in Hamilton, Ontario, the East End. They were all decked out in Crip suits. Crip everything. Crip shoelaces, Crip shoes, hats, Crip everything. Full out, guns, everything. Gang. You know what I mean? They came in, they were posted up, and they were in the kitchen, and they're cooking coke into crack cocaine in front of me, and I'm 14, 15 years old, and I'm going in the kitchen to make a peanut butter and jam sandwich, and they got baking soda and cocaine and guns all over the table. So that's how I grew up. And what happened was we got raided. The cops came and kicked the door in, right? And guys are literally that don't even smoke drugs. They're trying to smoke the crack to get rid of it, flushing it, trying to hide everything, and we got raided. They all got booked. 2 of those guys went to jail. One of them went to jail for murder, and one of the other guys got killed. Easy, that was his name. There was another guy named Dallas Borg. He used to come over. He died in jail too, in Barton jail, from an overdose. Rest in peace. But that's how I grew up. And what happened was, actually, we got evicted. We actually broke back into the apartment, me and my dad, so we had somewhere to sleep, because I'm homeless at this point. My dad's homeless. He's on drugs. You know what I mean? I can't remember what happened. Why he didn't go to jail, or if he did go to jail. I can't really fully remember what happened in that situation, because I guess some of his buddies there got caught with the burner and like some other large amounts. I think they took the rap for him, actually. I think that's what happened. I think they took the rap because he had a son and they felt bad. So they're like, yo, Dougie, I'll hold that down. Take care of your kid, So that's what happens, right? And so we broke back into the apartment because we had nowhere to sleep. We're sleeping on the floor, in the winter time. And then my dad just disappeared. He was out downtown, running around in trap houses, doing needles. You know, I saw him inject, you know, heroin, and he was melting Oxy 80s down before they restructured the pill, the green Oxy 80s, way back in the day when you could actually melt them down and inject them. They changed the formula or the structure of those pills, so you can't do that no more. I don't even know now. This is so long ago. I'm 30 years old now. This is when I was like 15, 16. So anyways, bottom line is my dad, you know, he had me selling drugs for him. You know, I was selling drugs. I was kicking in doors, robbing people with, you know, people, you know, that he was affiliated with and stuff like that. And then the streets inherited me. You know, I started, you know, I had to survive. I had nobody, and I wasn't going back to the abusive house that I grew up in, and you know, the manipulation. So bottom line is I started selling drugs. Started selling drugs to survive. Ecstasy. One of his friends hooked me up. I was, you know, gave me a big bag, like 300 ecstasy pills. And then they taught me how to, you know, cook coke, sell crack, stuff like that. They set me up, put me in a trap house on Emerald and King Street, downtown Hamilton. I was in there in that building. And I was sitting there, and, you know, there's, you know, drug addicts coming in, and I would serve them all day. They would post up and they would put me in certain spots, give me the work, get rid of that, come back to my spot, hit me up, and then we'll load you back up and you go back in. So I kept doing that over and over again. And, you know, then I kind of broke off. I did my own thing, you know, started stealing cars, doing B&Es, breaking and enterings, which I've been charged for on my criminal record with breaking and entering with intent, which means you broke in to basically kill somebody. Yeah. Hard to talk about this, you know. But I have to get the message across. A lot of trauma attached to this, you know. But anyways, so stealing cars, went to jail for stealing cars. Actually, I was on a run. I went to jail multiple times for stealing cars and doing B&Es and possession of drugs and weapons, stuff like that as a youth. Not even, this is before 18 already, you know. So actually, me and my dad ended up doing a lit. We hit a score that it was his, and he brought me along. And at the time, is he was at some trap house with some, there was a woman, and she was a prostitute. She was selling herself for money, and she was doing drugs, and I was there, and they were smoking crack in front of me and doing needles, and I was exposed to that. So anyways, so we hit a lit. We did a crime together and robbed a business together, and we cleared the whole place out, going back and forth all night until 5 in the morning. We had these recycling bins full of stolen stuff that we filled up, and we're walking down Main Street in Hamilton, Ontario, like at like 4 in the morning. Cops pulled us over, you know, and just questioned us. And my dad's like, "This is my son, and we're moving right now, actually, and I got evicted, and we're trying to transport everything." Is all night we've been doing this. So anyways, we got out of that. We got away from them, but they actually came in the morning and raided the spot, and he took the rap. And the cop said, "What is this, some type of father-son program you guys got going on here?" And my dad's like, "My son has nothing to do with it, and he had no idea what was going on. And, you know, he was just wanting to visit me, and unfortunately I pulled him into this." So he got 3 years for that. I think it was like 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah. I think I was 15. I was 15. He got 3 years for that, and in that 3 years, that's when I'm doing all the stealing the cars, B&Es, selling drugs, everything like that as well. That was the lifestyle I lived. I was lost. You know, I was sleeping in stairwells and you know, 10, 15-story apartment buildings and stuff like that. I had nowhere to go and nowhere to sleep, and I had to steal, and I had to kick doors in. I had to sell drugs in order to eat and put clothes on my back. Nobody was going to take care of me. The homeless shelters for the youth and the group homes were even worse and distorted than it was. I was better and safer by myself in the street, sleeping on somebody's back of their balcony. than to go to a shelter for a youth or a group home, because those kids will punch you out, stomp you out, and just rip your shoes off your feet. So that's how it was. And so fast forward, I'm just about to turn 18, and I think I did turn 18, and then he gets out of jail from the pen, comes home, we reconnect. I was kind of mad, obviously, and I was like, you left me, and this is who I am now, and it's your fault. And he tried to fix it, and he was like, I didn't want this to happen, I was on drugs, whatever, and so we bonded again, and we're drinking, strawberry wine and smoking joints together, and we're chilling. And then I get a warrant for my arrest, I won't even go into the details about what everything is, you know what I mean? It was an assault, you know what I mean? But I won't speak on, obviously any individuals or name any names or anything like that. But bottom line is, it was an assault. So I was, and I already have a hefty, criminal record as a youth. So they're not having no mercy on me. So I'm not having it. So I'm on the run. I robbed some guy's house. I kicked his door in. He was a liquor dealer. He sold 60 pounders of liquor. I kicked his door in, robbed him, took all the 60 pounders, came back, gave my dad 3 of them, and that was like the last thing that happened with me and him. And then I went to jail, and I went to max security, provincial, not, provincial jail, not the penitentiary, not prison, provincial. You'll sit there for a max of 2 years till you get sentenced, or if you get deuce plus, if you get 2 years plus, then you go to the pen. If you get anything under 2 years, you go to provincial. So you get everybody in there. You got murderers, killers, rapists, everything. Like, obviously those weirdo guys are on a different range, you know what I mean? But bottom line, there's every type of animal and demon inside of this place. And Hamilton Barton Jail is infamous for people dying in there, and it's nasty living conditions. There was 3 people per cell. It was hell. And actually, I forgot something. When I was a youth, when I stole a car one time, so I don't want to get too carried away with my background and my story, but the purpose is to tell you how God intervened in all this. So actually, when I was a youth, I think I was like 17, I think it was like the last time I went to jail as a youth, and I went to GR Force. Look it up. I don't even know if they still exist, but it was an open custody youth jail. So it was, I went there, and just before I got booked, I remember, being worn out, on the run, warrants, 17, running, hiding everywhere, cops chasing me, everything, and I'm getting away. And I'm tired, and I haven't eaten. I got nowhere else to run, nowhere else to hide, nobody will take me in. Got nowhere to go, nowhere to sleep. And I remember just screaming at the top of my lungs to the sky and saying, crying, how could this happen? To a kid. I was failed. By my guardians, and I was failed. Cried out, screamed at the sky in anger. In pain, like if there's a God, I need you. If there's a God, I need a God. And how could you let this happen? If there's a loving God out there in the world, somewhere up there, if there's a loving God, how could you let this happen? I hate you. I was like, you don't love me. If you are there, if there is a God. So I was still open-minded, to a God. But I was like, you don't love me and you don't care. 3 days later, and I'm in an alleyway screaming at the sky. Like, people came out and they're looking at me like, wow. Cursed God out. I did. I swore at it. I said everything. 3 days later, there's significance about 3 days. Jesus died and was resurrected and raised from the dead in 3 days. These numbers are very significant, the way things played out in all this. 3 days later, I get booked. I go to jail. Open custody jail, youth jail, GR Force. Look it up. Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. There's a Bible in my cell. When I go to my room, there's a Bible on my bed. So I was like, whatever, right? Like, in jail, they use the paper in the Bibles to, like, roll up tobacco and things, and you know what I mean, that they get, that they bring in. Somebody brings in, they hoop it up their ass, and they bring it into jail. Yeah, that's really how it is, for real. Not, they got it in a condom inside of one of the Kinder eggs back in the day. That's how they get stuff into jail. Anyways, that's a different story. But anyways, so there's a Bible there, and I'm like, and I'm thinking, like, I'm mad. I'm a mastermind criminal at this point. You know what I mean? I got it figured out. So I'm like, I'm gonna decipher this book. I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna decode it. I'm gonna prove that it's not right. That was my mentality at first. And so I started reading it. Every page of it, man. I'm reading it, and at some point when I'm reading this, it took me in further and further. At the beginning, it was boring, super boring. It was like naming all the Abraham, the brother of something, sister, the cousin, brother. I'm like, this is whack. I'm like, there's nothing in here at all. I'm like, so I'm just going through it, and yeah, and then something hit me like a ton of bricks. I read something when I got to the part about Jesus. And I was like, wow, about who Jesus was, and in the love that Jesus had for even sinners. And I thought, this guy's a real guy. He's a real dude. He's a real G in my mind as a criminal youth. But so something happened to me. I prayed, and I started to pray once I started getting in there about with Jesus, and then I just felt this overwhelming, it was like I popped an ecstasy pill. I was high, like lit, like, whoa, who laced me? I was high. I just felt energy come into the room. It was just supernatural, divine. It was just, and I'm just a typical teen. I don't even care about that stuff. I don't listen to that. I punched my own friend out for talking about Jesus to me once, my best friend, and ripped his gold chain off, which was a cross in my youth time, and which he's dead now, by the way. Yeah, so there's a lot to this story. My dad died. My cousin overdosed. My best friend died. My other best friend went to jail for like 10 years. My first love died. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because I want to show you what God has done in my life and how far I've come and what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? So I owe it all to God. Okay? Before I even read the Bible, I experienced God in a way He proved Himself to me. And this is the process. And also, before I even believed in a God, I knew there was a devil and I could tap into his energy. I knew Satan was real. I was doing evil stuff and getting away with it. And it was because I was tapping into his energy. So, anyway, something happened to me. I don't know what it was. But when I looked out the window, I saw the whole world differently. I don't know what it was, man. He changed my heart. God gave me the Spirit. I prayed for it, the Holy Spirit. And I said, God, I don't want to live this life no more. I was like, help me, And that's when I just felt the presence of God come in and just put His love on me. It was weird. It was like How do you feel love like that? It was just overwhelmed. Like, it actually felt like, have you ever felt static electricity? Like, where, you know, you rub your feet on the ground and then you go like this and you can feel static electricity and it shocks you or whatever. It was like that coming from the corner of the room, and it was coming closer and stronger and closer. And I'm looking up at the corner of the room praying, like, and I could feel the love of God coming into the room. Like, it was like, and at this point I'm in jail, like, you know, and I wasn't like doing drugs or anything like that, you know what I mean? I wasn't under the influence. I was cleared out at that time, you know what I mean? I was clean, sober, fine, perfect, not withdrawing or any weird stuff like that, you know. I wasn't tripping. This was happening. God let me feel his love. He placed his love on me. He heard me when I cried out to him, and it hurt him, you know, and he showed his love to me. And ever since, I haven't stopped. God has been in my life.